what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Foot Candle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Foot Candle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. My name is Alan Jackson. With me is Chris Fry. We are with the Foot Candle Film Society and the annual Foot Candle Film Festival coming up last week of September. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But Chris, how are you doing today before we get into our agenda for this episode?
I am doing well. Looking forward to talking about this film, and specifically, I always look forward to the reviews, but there are some trailers that we're going to talk about in the news section that I'm really looking, because I have not seen either one of them. So
okay. Well, Chris is teasing
there,
properly teasing us, both about the film we're going to be reviewing, which is going to be the film Drop, starring Megan Fahey and directed by Christopher Landon. We will be discussing that film, that thriller that just came out in theaters this past weekend. We're going to give a review of that film, and after that review, as Chris teased, we do have a couple of trailers for some interesting anticipated films, at least anticipated by us, and I'm sure a lot of other people in the film community very excited about both of these films. We'll be showing trailers for those two and talking about those films during that section. And then we have a couple of recommendations to give. Chris is going to be giving one of his patented film recommendations that we all look forward to. I'm going to throw in my own little 2 cents on a recommendation too, not for a film, but something film related. And I'll explain what I mean when we get to that at the end of the episode. But before we can do all that, before we do the trailers, before we do the recommendations, all that jazz, we do have a film to review, Chris. That film is Drop. I accidentally called it Trap during our setup pre-production meeting. I understand there's probably some reason for me to call it that word, just because it's a single word. It's kind of a very focused plot. Trap was the M. Night Shyamalan film, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. That was at a concert stadium.
Maybe some similarities in pacing styles, genre. Anyway, this is the film Drop. I'm very clear on that now. The name is Drop. That is the film we're going to be reviewing. Chris, are you ready to do that?
Let's do it.
All right. Here is our review of the film Drop.
Can we start over? Somebody keeps sending me these.
You gotta be within 50 feet to send a drop. It's someone in the restaurant.
Think I only want one number in my phone. Number in my phone.
Violet, everything okay?
I'll be right back.
911, what's your emergency?
Hi, my son is being held.
If you've gone to the movie theater since January, you've likely seen the trailer for Drop, Christopher Landon's latest directorial effort, starring Megan Fahey, as Alan mentioned. Fahey plays Violet, a widowed mother who goes on her first date in years, only to be bombarded by threatening messages on her phone during her upscale dinner with her charming date, played by Brendan Sklenar, I think is how you say his last name.
Sklenar. Let's go with Sklenar. Mm-hmm.
And he's Henry. He plays Henry.
Yeah.
Alan, what was your experience with Drop, and was it your first experience with a work by Christopher Landon? He did Happy Death Day to You, and then also Freaky. He's written some things too, but this was like basically his fourth film. So is this your first experience with his work?
It is. Okay. I have not seen any of his other works, all the films you just mentioned. No, I have not seen any of them. So yeah, I am. This is my introduction to Christopher Landon's directorial work.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the film Drop, I'm the one who actually recommended that, hey, let's go review this. Because on paper, this film on paper works for me.
Okay.
It's a tight plot.
Sure.
It is a, self-contained kind of 75% of the film is inside one venue, one location. It's a little bit of a mystery. There's you don't know who around them is the person creating all these threatening messages because the technology is being used, supposedly these messages she's getting, these threatening messages and instructions of what to do, supposed to be within like 50 feet of where she is. So automatically that sets up a really nice dynamic. It's like, okay, it's somebody I can visibly see in this room. Who is that? So I love all the mechanics of that. I'm like, I'm good for a good lower budget, tight thriller. I already saw it clocked in an hour and a half. I'm like, perfect. This is like, this is great. I'm on board for this.
Right.
And I'll say the film mostly met expectations in that I thought it was okay.
Okay.
And I again, my faint praise, the words okay or fine or
Fine,
whatever.
right.
This is maybe a little better than fine. I think okay is just a tiny step up from fine. It did meet all the expectations. I think it had some plot issues, some writing issues that anytime you're watching a film like this and everything's kind of contingent on you find yourself putting yourself in the lead character's mind.
Sure.
What would I do if this was happening? The minute the character does something that makes no sense, but you realize it pulls the curtain back a little bit. It's like, oh, the reason why she had to do that is we have to get to this next point or we have to advance the plot this way. You're like, once that happens, a film like this kind of breaks a little bit. And it's like, all right, well, that kind of ruined it, unfortunately. This had a couple of those moments for me where it's like, man, that was not the right call. That does not make any sense. And now I'm kind of pulled out of the movie, unfortunately. But I think the setup, was good. I liked the premise of the film. I thought it had enough interesting mystery and some little bit more tense moments to kind of keep it engaging, but it did fall apart for me in some of the storytelling and the plotting. Just because a film like this is such a suspect material for that type of thing. Like you kind of want to find those moments where the things break down. And unfortunately I found them and it hurt a little bit.
Okay.
But I will say I like Megan Fahey a lot in the lead. I thought her the other co-lead was also really good. Acting was great. I think characters were interesting. I had a moderately good time with this, so I'll go with that.
We'll skip fine or okay, and the quote that will go on
Moderately fine
will be
time.
moderately good time.
It wasn't an insulting time at the theater. It was not bad movie.
Sure.
It could have been better. It could have been tighter. It could have been a little more fleshed out in some places, but it worked okay. So, Chris, I want to hear your thoughts on the film.
This is a benefit of you recommending a film that we're going to go see. Because, after the podcast, we hit stop, and then you and I say, okay, what are we reviewing next week? And we kind of banter back and forth, and we're like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
You threw out Drop, and I was like, okay, sure, let's go see it. Even though, like I'd kind of mentioned the setup, I had been inundated with the trailer. The last time I remember seeing a trailer this much was for the Bob's Burgers movie, which I eventually did go see and liked it, even though I'd never seen the show. So this was an example of, you said Drop. I'm like, well, I know what movie that is. I know what it's about.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But no expectations. And I go in thinking like, okay, I know everything that's going to happen in the film because I feel like I've seen the trailer enough times. I kind of get it. But for me, I was pleasantly surprised that there were some things that hadn't been revealed in the trailer. So I had a good enough time where, like you say, where there's some maybe weak threads, plot threads. Yeah, but I guess overall, because my expectations were already just, I wasn't expecting a masterwork.
Right.
And so I had a good enough time.
Okay, good.
I think, too, of the films that I listed, I have seen Freaky. I had seen that. I didn't know it was by him because I didn't pay attention to who directed it. And that one was okay. It's Vince Vaughn. It's like a body switching type thing, which was interesting. Who's in that film. But I think the fact that my expectations were low, and then I just think, I had a good enough time playing harasser whodunit that I was amused enough.
Right. I will say on that note, I think it handled the mystery element of the film pretty good. And again, because, and I will admire, I'm not going to obviously spoil anything. I like the fact that it stuck to it.
Yes. And I think that
I was afraid at times it was going to subvert
Deviate.
and deviate and not give you that kind of resolution that you wanted. But I was pleasantly happy that it did.
Well, and so two things on that. First, I've seen people, I guess, lob criticisms at the film. And there again, I think they were expecting some
Sure,
things.
absolutely.
They say this person, the director, Christopher Landon, was aiming for Hitchcock or De Palma. And this is like, I'm like, well, maybe that was his inspirations, but I
Sure.
think, not everybody can make that kind of, and I think, I think that's a lofty expectation to place on
is.
something.
Yeah.
And like, I think what you and I are both getting at, when you have films like some of the Knives Out films
Yeah.
or some of the Miss Marple mysteries or Agatha Christie stuff that Kenneth Branagh has done recently, he's remade them. In fairness, what I feel like you have to do with a film like this, when it is a single location film, you kind of have to lay out the Professor Plum, Miss White, you have to kind of lay out all the characters on the board
Yeah.
and say, okay, it's one of these. Now, if you as a movie viewer happen to guess it's Professor Plum, well, good on you. Then it may not be as fun for you then because you already said, okay, I know that's who it is. And then, but at least I feel like the movie doesn't cheat and pull a quick one and like a cheap twist.
Right. That's
And
what I was
this-
afraid of, is there was going to be some sort of twist where I was like, oh, it's actually not somebody in this area after all, even though
It's
we've been
magic.
saying for the last hour that it
Right.
has to be somebody in this room. Yeah. I like the fact that, no, it stuck to its guns. It's like, nope, there is an actual resolution. There's an actual, ending. You have a actual somebody here. And I like that. I like the fact that it did that.
I'll say there were definitely two people that it could have been. And if it had been either one of them, I would have actually been mad. And they were in this setting of this
Yeah.
really nice, fancy restaurant. But if it had been either one of them, I would have been mad just because I felt like they pushed that really hard. And I'm like, really? You're really giving us this much? It's going to be this. And if it had been, I'd have been, been mad.
There was
So-
a moment in the film where a piece of information is dropped. I think I did.
I did.
That cast doubts on somebody.
Right.
And immediately my thoughts were, oh no, please don't go that. Again, I can't really say much more
Sure.
without spoiling,
Sure,
but
sure.
it would have been one of those subversive twist things. And I'm like, I hope that's being set up as a red herring. And it turned out it was, which I actually admired even more. I'm like, oh, good. Nice job. You made me think for a minute that
Right.
maybe you were going to go
This is
this other
going
little
this way.
cheap route, and you didn't. So thank you on that. So yeah, I admire the film for sticking to the genre and saying, no, we are actually going to play this as a mystery, and there is somebody who is doing this, and you will have a resolution at the end of the film, and it will make sense. And it's like, yeah, it was all good.
There's some things too that in my mind elevated a little bit more than what it could have been. She learned some stuff about her date that's interesting,
Yeah.
and that actually comes back around and is pretty important. Also, early in the film, her son, who, he's fine. He's, typical cute little kid and very young. So probably hard to like, and actually they didn't show him a lot. And I was like, yeah, probably because this kid, it's hard to shoot children on film. But he does this little gag with kind of like a little remote control car in the beginning. And you're like, okay, that's endearing or whatever. And you just kind of dismiss it.
Yeah.
But I actually liked. I actually liked it. I actually liked because it's like it could have just been a stupid, cute little gag in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it comes back around. I'm like, okay, so there was a reason for it, not just to be sugary cute in the beginning.
Yes.
So there's also her. It is her sister, right? Who's the
yes.
babysitter. So you have this play because what's happening is not only is she on this date and she's being threatened by somebody that's within the the radius of the restaurant and everything, but someone is at her house, and they are basically like stalking. She can see them on security cameras, and basically if she doesn't do what the person's telling her to do, then he's going to kill her son and probably her sister as well. So there's that going on. In the resolution of the film, there's kind of a very quick kind of gotcha moment, as if something is still going on, as if she's still getting dropped. And I thought that was I kind of liked that. It ended up being a joke, but
I know what you're saying, like a little coda at the end,
right?
Yeah,
And because in
Well, yeah.
movies of this type, you often have the main killer, bad guy, whatever, you think they're dead, and then suddenly somehow they're resurrected and they stab at you one more time. And this film's like, yeah, we're doing that,
winked at
but we're
that,
not
yeah.
doing that. And so, again, maybe it's because I wasn't expecting anything going in, and there was enough here that I was like, oh, I had a good time, and it was entertaining enough. Yeah.
I'm going to get a little deep in the weeds here just to kind of give an example of just where I do think the film, for me, lost some points and calls me to kind of, again, pull out of the film
back.
a bit.
Sure.
And I think I can describe this without going
Spoiling
too deep
anything.
on things.
Right.
Basically, the whole premise is she's getting these messages sent to her by somebody using kind of like AirDrop on a phone. It's the idea that you can send a photo to somebody near you within a certain range, because when you go to send it, you see a little map of like all the people in your area that you could send something to. So this person is dropping stuff to her, like threatening messages, and eventually telling her things to do, like instructions to go along.
Right.
But along the way, they're also referencing the fact that, hey, check your security cameras at her house. She's a very protective mother. She's got security cameras all over the house. So
Right.
she's able to go and see that, oh, wow, okay, there is somebody at my house. There is some threat there that this person on the
A
AirDrop
masked figure
is truly.
Yeah. Right.
My issue with the film is that one issue is
Sure.
I think that whole situation got escalated way too quick in terms of the threatening person at her house, actually initiating some violence, like pretty early on. And the fact that happened, and I don't feel like we ever really saw Violet, who is the Megan Fahy main character, really respond to that accordingly. In other words, she still was a little taking her time with responding to things or following through on what she's supposed to do. I'm like,
thought with that
you
person's escalation,
you
she
saw
would've-
this happen. Why are you not more ecstatic about wanting to follow this through or do what
Gotcha.
needs to be done because you've seen the threat? What I wish it had been
Because she
is
was
that-
scared it was going to be carried out more.
Well, I know that, but it's like, I think there's a way you could have played it where like you could still see that there's somebody at her house, somebody's in a threatening position, but no violence has been committed yet. In other words, look, they're there.
Right.
They're ready to do something if you don't follow through. So then I could at least believe her maybe being a little more, she might be taking her time a little bit more and doing some things. She might be more second guessing. I'm like, okay, do I really want to do this? Because this might mean this and it could hurt this other person and type of thing. But the fact is, if she sees her sister, I'll go ahead and say it, violently attacked pretty early on. I mean, to me, that's automatically like, okay, whatever is going on, it needs to end. I've got to do whatever needs to happen. I've got to like make something happen. But instead we get like there's like a good 5-minute scene kind of in the 2/3 point of the film. And it's a nice scene, a nice dialogue between Violet and her date. But the pacing and timing of it is like, okay, wait a minute. You've already seen your sister getting attacked. You've seen your son is like tied up in a room, like blocked off. Like, you don't have time to be sitting here and exploring feelings with this other person right now. That's the thing. I wish there could have been, if they had shuffled around some of the sequences part and like let it be more of a buildup of tension, I would have been a little more lenient on her taking 5 minutes to explore feelings with her date. But as it was like, why are you doing this when you've already seen bad stuff is happening at your house? Like, why prolong this anymore? Anyway, it's a little bit of again, that's one of those situations where this is the kind of movie where you automatically find yourself saying, what would I do if I were in that situation? And the minute you see a character do something very different than what you think a normal human should be doing in that situation, you start to question it and you kind of lose sight of the film a bit.
And I think, and this isn't spoiling anything because it's in the trailer that we've talked about. I think I would imagine, and there again, I think for me, I was just kind of going along for the ride, and I didn't think about it. But hearing you say that, yes, I think basically that conversation was to set up, because one of the things that she's going to be made to do is kill her date.
Yeah,
and they say that in the trailer, and
yeah.
so it's like, without that, you'd be like, I mean, granted, you still don't ever really you don't want to kill anybody.
Yeah.
But, forced with all of a sudden, like, okay, your sister's Tori, your son's this. Okay, kill this person. You're like, but they want to make it harder for her to do that. I mean, you should never kill anybody, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that it was, like you're saying, you saw kind of the mechanic like, oh, yeah, that doesn't really make sense, but they're doing this because that's what they have to do to get to this step.
True.
So,
I understood it from the bad guy's perspective,
Right.
what they were doing.
Right.
I just didn't understand her.
Right. I get you.
Kind of, being willing to take the time and slow down and talk over emotional feelings with her date.
Right.
When this is going on in the background. And it's like, again, I would have preferred that, you could have rearranged the sequence a little bit and really built it up. And I think it would have really ratcheted that tension up even further. I was actually a little shocked when it's like she cut to the camera pretty early in the film, right? When she starts getting these threatening messages, cuts to her security camera, and the person is broken into her house and is beating up her sister. I'm just like, oh my God, that went like really quick. And that should have been natural. That should have just paced everything up, like ramped everything up so quickly. And it didn't. And that was what was concerning for me. So anyway, I think it could have been handled with some re-editing and some changing of the pacing of the things happening. But that's, again, it may sound like a little nitpicky, but it did have an impact on me watching the film where I felt like I just ended up questioning more. Why are you doing this or not doing this right now? And, anyway, but I think overall the structure and the rest of the pacing and structure of the film, I think worked fine. And again, I overall love the premise. So it had a nice sandbox to play in, and I think it did most of the pieces right and making it work. So, yeah, I'm still coming out positive on the film. I do have some issues and misgivings with it. That I wish they'd just been a little tighter thinking through the plotting of it. But I like this. It stuck to its convictions of being a murder, a mystery thriller, and it stuck to it and it worked. And I think it had a good, decent resolution. I like the little encoder too. I thought was kind of funny.
Sure.
It just playful in a way that worked. Yeah, it was fine.
Something to be said to the PG-13 film. It's not overly graphic, not overly violent.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice middle of the road film that you don't, feel bad about seeing.
True.
Yeah, I had a good time. I will say, if we're gonna, you threw out kind of like something that kind of tripped you up, even though I'd seen it in the trailer, so I knew it was going to be in there at some point, but I wasn't aware. And there again, maybe this is, the world of movies where this happens, and fair enough. Or if it really does happen, okay, I wasn't aware of this. I wasn't aware that buildings were pressurized like airplanes. So when windows break out, it sucks people out of the window.
Right.
Now that was something to me. I was like, okay, because you see her hanging out of the really tall building in the trailer.
I think if you're really, really high up, I think it does.
Really? Okay.
think so.
Well, then, okay.
I think
then
so.
I was just like, I didn't know that if a window broke out, everybody's like sucked out. I mean, I know.
have to live in an airplane. An airplane's up really, really high.
Really high.
But I
right.
think if you were in a really tall building.
Depressurized. I didn't know that buildings were. Okay. Well, then that is
so.
not movie magic. That actually. Okay.
If anybody out there, science-minded, physics, whatever, type of science is involved. If anybody out there's got some feedback for us on that, does that really happen? And is that plausible in the film, or was that a fabrication for the movie going public?
Right.
We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for your advanced feedback on that. So, all right. Well, that is Drop. Not doing great money-wise, although it was a pretty low-budget film to begin with. I mean, didn't really have any big stars. I mean, but Megan Fahey from The White Lotus, I think, is the one thing she's really known for. I think she's got the potential to be a big star.
Sure.
I think she's got the presence. I think she's got the, she knows how to work with the camera really well. I think she does a good job with it. So I think that's just kind of a star-making thing for her to keep propelling. But outside of that, the budget's pretty small in this film, so didn't have a whole lot to make up, I don't think, for it. but it's still underperforming a little bit, I think, box office watch, which is a shame. You know, film like this ought to be a fun watch for people. So, all right, well, that is Drop, playing in theaters right now. We're both saying yeah, and Chris is actually more enthusiastic than I am, which is surprising. Good surprise though.
It's all about expectations, I guess.
It is. See, we are testing that theory of if Chris goes in with really low expectations, it's very easy for him to be excited and happy and pleased.
There you go.
I mean, it goes for all of us too.
Sure.
So I'm trying really actively to manage all expectations for everything. I'm just kind of assuming everything is going to be bad, and I'll come out feeling good about it.
There you go.
So, all right, let's go ahead and move in. Let's take a break, and then we'll go into our next stuff. Okay. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll go into our movie trailers that we want to preview for you. And we also have a couple of recommendations to make as well. So stay tuned. You're listening to Foot Candle Films, and we'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by Jackson Creative, a custom communication agency located in downtown Hickory, North Carolina, specializing in online content creation. To learn more, visit thejacksoncreative.com. Jackson Creative, we tell your story.
Welcome back to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. We had our review of the film Drop in the first half of the show. Now is the time we turn our attention to some upcoming films that we are either curious about, interested in, or in some situations possibly ecstatic about. And this bounces, I think, between all those categories to some degree. Chris, we have we hinted at this, I think, in an earlier episode. We were kind of curious when we were going to see some footage and material from this film. And now the answer has revealed itself, and that we do have a trailer for the next Wes Anderson film. It is titled The Phoenician Scheme. I would list the cast out, but I don't know if we have enough time in our podcast running here to fit them all in. I'll just say Benicio del Toro does appear to be the lead.
Okay.
Although it is a full cast of typical Wes Anderson characters involved in this film. I'm pulling the trailer up right now. Let me see if I can just give you a quick taste of a few of the names. A lot of the names are ones you're going to recognize from his last film, which was Asteroid City.
Okay.
Because it seems like with Wes Anderson, he has a core group of actors, but then he keeps building on them every film. And if you get added to a film in a Wes Anderson oeuvre, you pretty guaranteed you're going to have a part in the next one. So you at least get a couple films with him before.
As long as you behave,
you behave, you do your part right. So you're in there. Benicio del Toro is in this. Michael Cera is a new face.
He is.
And he has not done a Wes Anderson film, which is odd. That seems like that would have been a perfect fit, but they're remedying that now with this film.
Got you.
We also have Tom Hanks.
Okay, so he's back.
He was in Asteroid City.
Okay.
Bryan Cranston was in Asteroid City.
Also in Isle of Dogs as a voice. But
correct.
Yeah.
Richard Ayoade.
He was in one of the shorts.
That's right. He was in the Netflix shorts that were done. He was not in a film, I don't think.
I don't think so. He was in Ratcatcher or
That's
Rat
right.
something. Yeah.
Jeffrey Wright was in. He was in the
French Dispatch.
French Dispatch.
Yeah.
Correct. Scarlett Johansson was in Asteroid City.
Mm-hmm.
Benedict Cumberbatch was in the Netflix shorts.
Yes.
Rupert Friend was also in the Netflix shorts. Yeah. So anyway, it's a mixture, pulling some film friends and some from that he did with the Netflix short stories as well. The Roald Dahl short stories.
Right.
The only new name I'm recognizing here, Mia Threppleton.
That's a new name, and I'm not sure I know who that is.
Right. Well, you'll see her in the trailer. But yeah, she's the only one I don't know, don't recognize, but seems to have a pretty big part in the film as I think the second lead. So,
okay.
Do you just want to watch the trailer, or do you want me to give any background description of the story?
Oh, I tell you what, if we don't get any understanding of the story after the trailer, then maybe fill me in a little bit about
All right. Well, let's go ahead and watch the trailer then. This is the trailer for The Phoenician Scheme. I have seen it a couple times. Chris has not seen it. So, Chris, I'm excited to hear your thoughts on what you see. So here we are. Let's check it out.
At this moment, rescue workers are laboring to recover and identify the remains of Zsa Korda, international businessman, maverick in the fields of armaments and aviation, among the richest men in Europe. This was Korda's 6th recorded airplane crash. He is survived by 10 children, 9 boys, 1 nun, his daughter Liesl.
I've appointed you sole heir to my estate, which you may come into sooner rather than later.
Why? It's been 6 years since our last meeting.
I have my reasons.
Which are what?
My reasons? I'm not saying. I'm saying I'm not saying. Korda Land and Sea Phoenician Infrastructure Scheme, my most important project of my lifetime.
Our objective, disrupting, obstructing, impeding, crippling Korda's enterprise in any manner possible.
Get the hand grenades. Today, tonight, and tomorrow, we rendezvous with every Titan and pretend we agree what we already agreed. But in fact, we don't. We can't.
May 30th will be The Phoenician Scheme comes to theaters. Chris, are you happy you saw the trailer, or would you have rather have still kind of sat on it and waited till the film came out?
I'm overjoyed just because it gives me something to look forward to. I mean, not that lots of movies to look forward to, but and Wes Anderson's one of those directors that, regardless if it's a teaser or a trailer, he seems to be, never met the man, but admire him from afar, controlling enough that he's not going to let his films be spoiled. He's not going to do that. Like, of all the trailer, I've never seen it. Like, oh, well, now I know the whole movie. Now it's spoiled. Like, he's not going to do that. And so it makes me want to see it even more. It makes me anticipate it. And I'll say, too, I guess this is true with all his films. I'm sure somebody's done a doctoral thesis on this. But I feel like with this film specifically in the trailer, it's like, okay, he got that idea from this previous film of his. Mm-hmm. He got this idea from this previous film of his. It's like you can see this film looks like the ultimate Wes Anderson movie that he would make at this point because of the things that he's, like little camera tricks that he's done or little bits of humor, and it's assembled it into this Voltron machine of this film that's about to come out. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I don't know, it looks to be really good. I think some have mentioned, like, for example, like The French Dispatch, they were a little put off because it was very segmented. It was like different stories and didn't make for a complete film. Then he did those shorts, which were released separately, so they didn't suffer from that problem. But this film seems to be a story from start to finish, so that it won't be kind of disjointed, which some have felt a little. And even with Grand Budapest Hotel, because of the shifts back and forth in time, people found that a little disorienting. I think this will be good.
On your note about not being spoiled by anything, I love the fact that this is the full description listed for the film on IMDb.
Okay.
The story of a family and a family business.
Nice.
Period. I'm like, all right, there you go. And I think I think the trailer sets the mood just right. It gives confidence that, yes, this is still a very much a Wes Anderson film. No doubt about it. We get that there's some business intrigue, political intrigue. There's some war. There's some, just enough of a flavor to kind of get some vibe for the film without knowing too much more about it. So.
And I'll say it definitely has some of the shorts that he did had kind of a darker, so the one that Rupert Friend was in about, being bullied and stuff like, had a little bit of some dark stuff to it. And supposedly from some of the early rumblings about the Phoenician Scheme, it said that this is going to be kind of a darker film of Wes Anderson. So not that I think it's going to be, depressing or anything, but I guess, I could see, and the trailer does hint at some of the things you're like, okay, maybe it is.
So just an interesting little note. This is Wes Anderson's first live action feature film that's not being photographed by Robert Yeoman. Okay. Robert Yeoman has been his cinematographer for all of his films.
Interesting.
And this is the first one not to have him. He said that Yeoman instead chose to film the movie The Collaboration with director Kiyamar. Not familiar with that, but that was the project he worked on instead. So, could have fooled me in with the trailer. I mean,
Right.
Looks pretty seamless to me. But anyway, just an interesting note that it is a different cinematographer than he's worked with ever on films. Now, this may be one who he worked with on the Netflix shows.
Okay.
Because it specifically said in this news item that it was the film, first live action feature film that he's done. So with a different cinematographer. Trying to look and see who that cinematographer is, if it's somebody he's worked with on other projects or if it was somebody new altogether.
You mentioned, I forget her name because I'd never heard it before, but she seems to be like the second lead or the co-lead in the film. The lady, woman's name, and I guess plays his daughter in the film, Benicio del Toro's daughter. She seems like, from what I can tell from the trailer, she's doing a good job. I'm like, okay, this is going to put her, if not on the map for the film world, who may already be familiar with her, definitely going to put her on the map for me because it looks like she's up to the challenge.
All right. So this, the cinematographer for the Phoenician Scheme is Bruno Delbona.
Okay.
And he has done quite a number of films.
Yeah, I've
worked
heard the
with
name.
a lot.
Yeah.
He did The Tragedy of Macbeth with one of the Coen brothers.
Sure.
He did The Ballad of Buster Scruggs with the Coen brothers.
Okay.
He did a couple of Tim Burton films, Big Eyes, Mrs. Pellegrin's Home for Peculiar Children. He did Inside Llewyn Davis with the Coen brothers. Yeah, so he's done a lot with Coen brothers and with Tim Burton.
See, here's and so that hearing, and the name sounded familiar. I couldn't have spouted the films, but I'd seen the name before.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me that he could slip right into Wes Anderson's world because he's worked with Tim Burton. He's worked with the Coen brothers, who are very visual stylists, who I'm imagining have a pretty good idea of what they want and to be able to communicate that. So it doesn't surprise me that Wes Anderson's like, oh, I know this guy can do it.
Well, and it is the first time they've worked together.
Okay.
So, he hasn't shot anything else for Wes Anderson. Didn't do any of the Netflix stuff. I was wondering if maybe he had directed or been kind of involved in the animated films that Wes Anderson's done. But no, they haven't worked together at all. So this is truly first project with a new cinematographer. So
interesting.
Let's see how that turns out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is the Phoenician Scheme coming out May 30th. Or June 6th. I saw May 30th on the trailer. IMDb saying release date June 6th.
So
maybe it's limited on May 30th and wide release on June 6th. Anyway, between those 2 weeks, it should be available to see.
Excellent.
Okay, Chris, that was that one from Wes Anderson. We had one other trailer I wanted to talk about, and this one we have not seen, either of us.
Correct.
And another highly anticipated film from a highly anticipated director. The film is Eddington, which is the latest film from Ari Aster. Ari Aster, for anybody who's been listening to us for a while, last film he did was Beau is Afraid with Joaquin Phoenix. Before that, he did Hereditary and Midsommar.
Yeah.
And was that it?
I think so.
Just those three.
Those three.
Yeah. So now this is his fourth, I guess, feature-length film, fourth bigger studio film. And the latest trailer for it just dropped a couple days ago. Sounds really interesting. It's being slated as a modern Western. It is set to open at Cannes. I
think it's actually, now that you mention that, I think Wes Anderson's film, Phoenician Scheme, and this are both in competition at Cannes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this film is A24 film. Just the brief description before we show the teaser for it. A standoff between a small town sheriff. Oh, by the way, this is May 2020, and that's important to note because this does have some symbolism with the time period going on at that point. In May of 2020, a standoff between a small town sheriff, played by Joaquin Phoenix once again, and mayor, played by Pedro Pascal, sparks a powder keg as neighbor is pitted against neighbor in Eddington, New Mexico. The film also stars Austin Butler, Emma Stone, and several others. Okay. So with that, this is his fourth feature film. After Hereditary, Midsommar, and Beau is Afraid. All of them have been A24 productions, so this one is fourth in line with that. Let's see the teaser for it, but I'll just say really quick, we commented about how A24 had kind of maybe some questions about whether they were spreading themselves a little thin with some of the latest films we've reviewed there, possibly. will this kind of restore a little higher confidence in the quality of work they're doing? Also, Pedro Pascal, that dude's in everything right now. So, I mean, he's got this movie coming out, which is going to be coming out July. He's got the Fantastic Four coming out in July as well.
Right.
There was something else happening that he's in like June or July.
The Last of Us.
Well, that just started like last night.
Right, which is a mini-series.
But there was another movie.
Okay, another movie.
That he's actually in.
Okay.
I thought.
You might, yeah, I
like
would be surprised.
within a few weeks of the Fantastic Four coming out too. Oh, the Celine Song film.
Oh, right. Right.
It's like, man, this guy's going to be in 3 movies coming out within like 2 months of each other. And at least one of them is going to be, I think, a big blockbuster. This one, questionable. We'll see. And anyway, yeah, he's a busy guy.
Apparently.
Busy guy. Plus, he's doing Apple commercials too. Have you seen that?
Yes.
It's actually a really good
Yeah,
commercial.
I've seen it.
All right. Let's check out the trailer or teaser trailer, I guess, for Eddington coming out July 18th.
Of course, they keep looking at that lab in Wuhan, China. If you look at that lab in Wuhan when that was established, it was 1956. Of course, that was the year Tom Hanks was born, the first celebrity with the virus, Mr. Sleepless in Seattle.
If you value your life, you should think twice. Because the people of Eddington like guns.
Your pain is not a coincidence. You are not a coincidence. We are not a coincidence.
And I am speaking now to deny my husband's announcement yesterday, which was false.
Eddington, New Mexico, despite its meager population, is quickly being co-opted in online circles.
I'm ready to continue leading our town and fighting the pandemic and the racial and economic.
All right, so that was the teaser for Eddington coming out July 18th. It was definitely a teaser in that it just kind of throws a lot at you to kind of give you a sense of the overall vibe of the film and makes it pretty clear. This is talking the reason that May 2020, it was kind of an important date in the synopsis of the film, is it is happening in the throes of the pandemic. It seems to be talking a little bit about some culture wars that may be going on at that time in the town of Eddington, Texas. So, Chris, that's what I'm getting from it, I assume.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we're picking up on, right?
Yes, and interesting, we're 5 years out from 2020 now. Obviously, we're in 2025. I would not have picked Ari Aster to make a film commenting specifically on that time period, but and the intro that you kind of gave to it, where it was like a modern Western, taking place in like New Mexico, I was like, okay, interesting. And it does seem like he's going for that, pitting the mayor up against, the sheriff guy, and they're going back and forth. Ari Aster in the teaser, he communicates that because this was an audio podcast. You couldn't see it unless you watched the trailer for yourself. But scrolling through social media, I think it's Instagram, and seeing all these people posting about different things, and the music begins to get very, very intense. And I'm like, okay, yes, this is starting to feel like an Ari Aster film. Mm-hmm. And there's the tension Hereditary, Midsommar, straight out, like horror films. Beau is Afraid, more of like a psychological type horror film. And this is like real world tension, so interesting to see how he's kind of evolving in the realms of the films that are the genre of film that he's making. This looks to be, I think it's going to be a hard watch. It actually reminds me a little bit of Alex Garland's Civil War that came out. And you're just like,
got a little bit of that vibe as well.
Boy,
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of a powder keg that's going to be released. I am interested to see it, but a lot of good actors and everybody involved. So I'm interested to see it. Yeah.
Right. Same here. So yeah, it should be interesting. Have you seen the poster for it?
I have, but I've forgotten what was on it.
The classic photograph, the bison falling off the cliff that people have seen, but that's the poster for Eddington.
With kind of the tagline, hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, he's definitely got his sights on a particular topic and particular time frame and particular American event, and be curious to see what his take on it is, or how successful it is.
I guess just like when Alex Garland did Civil War, I never really picked Alex Garland, him of Annihilation, as necessarily like a provocateur.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have imagined Ari Aster either. You know, it's like he plays in the horror genre or what. And this is like, no, it's definitely kind of being provocative.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, curious to see what happens with that.
Yep. All right. Well, that, again, they're saying July release date for that. So both of these films, Phoenician Scheme and Eddington, we're seeing this summer for sure coming out. And both will be playing at Cannes, as you mentioned. So we'll be anxious to hear kind of what the response. Ooh, I cannot wait to hear how long of a standing ovation each film gets, because that's the pure measure of how good the film is.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
If these films don't get at least a 7-minute standing ovation, it is over for them.
Got you.
It's so dumb.
It is dumb.
Anyway, I'm sure we'll be hearing all about it in the coming weeks as it plays. I think Cannes is mid-May. I don't know.
I think so. I know it's coming up, but yeah.
Okay.
Also, there's a Spike Lee film. I don't know if that one's in competition or not, but it is debuting at Cannes as well.
Oh, okay. Hold on. We got just another minute.
I think Denzel Washington is starring in it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
That's good.
Yeah.
Denzel hasn't done a movie with him in a while, so.
Correct. Yeah, I think it's Denzel Washington. I just saw like a real quick image on social media this weekend.
It's not highest to lowest.
Yes, that's the name of it.
That's the name of it?
Yes.
Yeah, Denzel Washington, Jeffrey Wright.
Oh, wow.
And it's an adaptation of Kurosawa's 1963 crime thriller.
Okay. Gotcha. Like the title sounds familiar, but okay. Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's an adaptation of High and Low.
Right.
Yeah. So highest to lowest. Interesting. Yeah, that is. So that's going to be playing at Cannes also. So we'll have to hear feedback on that one as well. Good. All right. Should be some interesting films coming up this summer for us to check out. All right, Chris, that is all I had on the news side of things for us. I think that was enough. While we roll into our recommendations. And Chris, you have a film recommendation for us you'd like to share, or something for us to maybe check out here as we go into our getting close to the summertime. You know, there's going to be some big blockbuster movies come out in the theater. And, you know, is your recommendation a film that might be kind of a nice balance against that for people, or...
I don't know about that. Okay. But the benefit is if you want to just watch it from your own couch, you can not leave the house or whatever, you can do that. I guess it kind of surprising in a way that it wasn't released to a theater, but it is a Netflix film. So I guess they just want, the viewership at home versus releasing it at theater, because it's not like this is going to win Oscars. I'll tease it that much. So they just figured we'll just get the subscriber numbers and release it right to our service. What I'm going to recommend, it's kind of based off of, Drop, the type of film that is. It's kind of like what is going on here, kind of like a thriller, kind of whodunit type thing. Mm-hmm. This isn't necessarily whodunit as much as it is who is doing it. And the distinguishing thing is this film is called It's What's Inside, and tagline is nobody is leaving the same as they came. So what is this film? Okay. A pre-wedding reunion descends into a psychological nightmare for a group of college friends with a surprise guest arrives with a mysterious suitcase. This suitcase, it happens in basically allows people to switch bodies. Mm-hmm. And as you can imagine, so it's kind of a sci-fi type thing, but there is a little bit of a thriller element and kind of a what is going on and who is doing what to whom. Mm-hmm. It is a little messy. So, kind of like Drop, you may be like, wait a second, they're only doing that because that helps us get from plot point A to plot point B. I can see that. But I had a good enough time with it. Okay. It is the directorial debut for Greg Hardin. So I think I thought stylistically, it was pretty interesting what he puts on screen and the way he shoots, or the way a cinematographer was shooting some things. And that was pretty interesting. I thought the cast was also good. There was one guy who I didn't recognize, or I thought I recognized him, but he plays Forbes. His name is David William Thompson. Turns out he is the guy who was a kid in that film Win-Win, which we reviewed on our first podcast
Very first episode.
Long time ago, back in 2011. So Anyways, It's What's Inside if I were to read the names, you probably wouldn't recognize them. I wouldn't have recognized David Thompson, but I recognize his face a little bit. But I had a good time with it. Okay. So it's kind of a what's going on, kind of a, sci-fi. And so it's elements of films you've seen before, but not necessarily really presented in this style. But I liked it. Okay. Yeah, it's a wedding reunion, pre-wedding reunion that goes very south.
And just tell me the name again.
So it's a kind of a confusing, maybe not in the Hall of Fame of best titles for movies, but it's referring to like the suitcase, or is it referring to what's inside people makes them who they are? There's a little bit. So it's called It's What's Inside.
It's What's Inside.
Yes.
Okay. So when you're doing your searching on your TV device, and looking for the film, it's What's Inside.
And I think I also benefited, which hopefully I'm not spoiling this for our listeners. I saw this mentioned a lot when it came out. It says it's a 2024 film, but I think it might have been released in early 2025 on Netflix. Not really sure when. Things get swallowed up.
Yes.
And this is one that when it was released, a lot of people either loved it or hated it. It was kind of very polarizing. And I just kind of put it on my watch list as something, I'm going to give that a chance because sci-fi I'm a sucker for. And then I watched it, and I think not having seen a trailer for it or not having really read stuff about it helped me maybe enjoy it more than I would have otherwise.
Okay.
But yeah, It's What's Inside.
It's What's Inside on Netflix.
Yes.
That is Chris's recommendation. Thank you, Chris. And I'm going to throw something out that is not a film, but it is all about film.
Can I have a guess?
Yes.
Is it The Studio?
It is The Studio. Okay. Have you seen this yet, Chris?
Yes.
You've seen all of it? Have you been watching it, or are you?
Yeah, I think I am up to date as of today.
Okay,
I think it's 3 episodes or 4.
There's actually been 4.
Okay, yeah,
4
I think
out.
I've seen all 4.
Yeah, I love this show. And just to tell you, anybody who is listening to this podcast and you've actually stuck to the end means that you also like hearing about movies and talking about movies. This is a comedy series all about the film industry and the movie business, and starring Seth Rogen. Episodes are written and almost all directed by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, kind of a writing and producing partner of his. And it's all about a legacy Hollywood movie studio striving to survive in a world where it's increasingly difficult for art and business to live together. That's kind of the ongoing theme is, Seth Rogen's character, Matt Remick, gets named the new studio head for Continental Pictures. He is a art films guy. He wants the films to be, high quality. He wants them to be meaningful. He wants it to be art, but he's in a studio that first episode wants to greenlight as quickly as possible the exciting new IP they've achieved, which is Kool-Aid, to make a Kool-Aid movie. And right away with the first episode, the fact that you've got Martin Scorsese playing himself.
Yes.
And he's being tied into the production of the Kool-Aid movie in a very funny way.
Yeah.
Yes. That right away, that first episode, like, okay, I'm hooked. I'm good. And then you got a second episode that is all about the magic of the one shot in a film that itself, the episode was actually shot as a one shot. And it's just great. So I think it's a really, really fun, smart show.
If you're listening to this podcast, odds are it's probably one of the better recommendations we could ever make because if you're listening to the show, odds are you're probably already watching it. So you're like, I know about that.
Just skip this.
But no, it's good. If you're not, you should give it a chance.
And again, I know I don't like to step outside the bounds and recommend something that's not a film, but I mean, it's just too good not to throw out there.
I wonder if it's going to go for more than a season. There's so many cameos, and so it just seems like at some point, like, I don't know, it'd be too much of a. And I don't see Seth Rogen as being like, you know what, I just want to do a series from now on. Like it doesn't say. So I wonder if it's going to be a one and done type thing. But yeah, it's enjoyable.
It's very, very good. The Studio, it's an Apple TV Plus production, so you do have to have Apple TV Plus to watch it. But yeah, it's well, for me, it's well worth the Apple TV Plus monthly subscription. If you're not already a member, it's worth it just over a couple months to watch it. Cause I think there's going to be 10 episodes for this season. So Seth Rogen, Catherine O'Hara's in it. It was great. Ike Barinholtz, Catherine Hahn, all just really, really good. My favorites, though, are the actual directors playing themselves in the show.
Ron Howard's
in it. It is so funny.
Yeah.
Nick Stoller kind of, some of these directors actually putting themselves in making themselves in a somewhat of a bad light, like Nick Stoller pitching the Kool-Aid movie and being all excited about making a movie about Kool-Aid. Ron Howard playing against his whole nice guy type. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's fun to see everybody having a good time with it. So,
right.
I'm a big fan of the show. So, all right. So I think that is going to wrap us up for today. So we had a couple good recommendations of things to check out, one movie and one film series. And then also, of course, our review of the film Drop earlier in the show, and our trailers, little previews watching for The Phoenician Scheme and for the second one, which was Eddington. So Chris, if anything we talked about sparks any conversation with anybody wants to give questions, if somebody can answer us the question about the whole pressure window thing in a high rise, that really works, so like it did in the movie Drop, how can they get a hold of us?
You can berate me over email at info@footcandle.org and say, clearly you were not paying attention in physics class.
Right.
Or you can leave us a voicemail via the contact page on the mesh.tv website. And we might be able to feature it on a future episode when we answer your question or discuss it a little bit. So that's a new thing you can do, is leave a voicemail via the contact page on the mesh.tv website. Otherwise, you can follow us on Facebook at Foot Candle Film Society, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Twitter. We're at just Foot Candle Film. Al and I are also on Letterboxd, where we try to leave quick takes of what we're seeing. Do us a favor. If you enjoy the show, consider giving us a star rating, write a review, or share with friends whatever service you receive your podcast on, because it'll help us reach new listeners. We'd appreciate it. Alan teased it. I'll now go into it a little bit more. The 2025 Foot Candle Film Festival, September 19th through the 28th. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be our 11th festival, and it will be held in Hickory, North Carolina, different locations around the town. So if you're local or you want to travel to Western North Carolina during that time, we'd love to have you come visit.
All right. Well, that'll do it for today. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Foot Candle Films. We'll look forward to talking to everybody next time when we get back together. Take care.
See you in the ticket line.
Watch films in the company of like-minded people in the dark. Watch films in the underground. We won't let anyone know where you are. The films that don't make it to Carmike at the mall, or ones that were famous when Grandpa would watch films out of the reverence of the heritage of an art. Watch films through the courtesy of Foot Candle Film Society.
Special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about Carpal Tuller, visit www.carpaltuller.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.